Hi everyone, it's Clyde at Vibrant Soap, and today I'm going to do another artist-inspired soap for you, but I want to tell you first that I just got back from the big conference in Atlanta, Georgia. That's the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild conference, and it was just awesome. I got to meet some soap superstars, and it was just awesome. Spent some time with Zahida Mapp from Handmade in Florida and Ariane Ossino. Watch for their channels. They're both just awesome and they're great people. I always thought they were because they come across as very friendly, and you know what? They really are. We had a great time together, and we're actually going to plan a collaborative effort on this kind of theme of artist-inspired soap. So keep your eyes open for that. I can't wait to get into that project. Today I'm going to be doing a soap inspired by Miró. Always been a fan of his, and in the video you're going to see me mistakenly use the name Mondrian instead of Miró. But you know, when I thought about it, and I'm going to put these two soaps next to each other because I actually did do a Mondrian soap a while back. I'll show you a picture of it next to the Mondrian. There I go again. Next to the Miró soap, and there are some similarities there, but they are at the same time quite different. They both had palettes that were basically primary colors. Not always in the case of Miró, but very often he had primary colors there. And both of them used black as a very defining tool between the colors, very linear. The big difference is that Mondrian was very strict in his use of the black lines to define geometric shapes. Mainly he stuck to verticals and horizontals, whereas Miró just was very curvilinear in his black line movements, and so it was very much more freeing. And Miró was also known as the surrealist because he also still, although he was very abstract, tended to have subject matter in his paintings. I'm going to go into more detail with the color for this Miró soap right after this, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is a great time to just talk about color again from the very beginning, and there's a reason for that. I'm starting off with the primary colors. Primary colors, as I said in my intro, had a lot to do with the painting vocabulary of both Mondrian and Miró, and so both of them really did use a lot of the primary colors. Those are the three colors that we can basically mix all our other colors from. I would say that yellow was not used as much as the reds and blues in both artists' paintings. Probably there's some exceptions to that rule. And then I found by looking at least for the research for Miró's paintings, and that's the soap of the day, based on his work, that purple was used, but as mainly an accent color. And then there was also some green, and I'm using green in today's soap because I saw a lot of green actually in a lot of Miró's paintings. Miró was from Barcelona, and unfortunately when I went to Barcelona this past year, there was some political things going on there, and so we didn't get to go into the Miró Museum. Beautiful work. So here we have the primaries and secondaries, and they didn't really stray too far from this palette. But this is still a good time, since I've got those colors on the page, to talk about what happens when you mix these secondary colors with a primary color. So we get, you know, our reddish purple. That's when we get the tertiary colors. And although I'm not going to be using that in today's soap, it's a good time to talk about them. And we use as many of these variations of color to get the color nuance that we like to have for our creative projects. So there's a red-orange, and then there's a yellow orange. And one of my favorites is the yellow green. Gives a kind of lime-like color. That's not to say that those are all the colors we have, because we can combine opposite colors to get a less bright version of the colors. We can add blacks or whites to the colors to get pastels and shades. But this is the color scheme that I'm going to be going for today. But the last color that both artists had in common was the use of black. Just a little quick other note is that Mondrian tended to make these grids of color with the color in between the lines. And today's soap with Miró, he used expressive lines. So lots of curvy lines, so you can see that in today's soap. So, hope you like the video that follows, and let's get started right away. So in preparation for these artist-inspired soaps, I really do my homework. I look at a lot of the artists that I'm going to depict. I look at a lot of their works. And I try to find the most unique feature that these artists tend to have, so that the design is going to come across as the sum of their work. And so it's sometimes hard to find which painting that I'm going to really be inspired by. So here I am looking through this book on Miró, and I love all the works, so it's hard to pick, what variation of what he did was to do for this soap. So I'm also looking for what he actually did with the line work on the soap. So there are a lot of like curved lines, thick lines mixed with thin lines, and I also had to look at what was going to be possible in soap. I could have been a little happier in this soap today if I had used a little bit more of the activated charcoal, because as the soap cured, the dark lines really did turn to gray. But luckily I did use a mica drizzle of activated charcoal, and I got some dark lines. So I think the next time I do that, which is entirely possible because this was a lot of fun, I will be using a little bit more activated charcoal, and certainly a lot more of the black mica drizzle, which is not really mica, but the activated charcoal drip, to get those really dark defining lines. So let's get on with the soap making. So there was also a bit more prep work that went into this soap. So before I even started to do anything with the cold process part of the soap, I melted some melt and pour and made some thin embeds. And that's because Miró had some little bits of geometric pieces in his work, and the only way I could get these like very geometric shapes involved with the soap was to make some geometric shapes with the melt and pour. I'm taking the frosting tip and cutting circular pieces out of the flat pieces of melt and pour. My pink knife, and cut rectangles and squares for the remaining embeds. Okay, let's blend the oils. Kale and clay. That looks good. Today I'm soaping at about 80 degrees, which means my oils and my lye are at about the same temperature. I want this batch to move real slow, mainly because I don't want a textured top. I want to try to pour it as flat as I can. That already looks emulsified. fragrance oil called Artica from Rustic Essentials. I'm using it because it's a sort of neutral scent in that it doesn't make one think of fruit or a foodie type of soap. So I don't want it to contrast too much with the design I'm after. Just stirring that in well. And I've used it before. It doesn't accelerate, it doesn't discolor. So it's the perfect fragrance for this. Okay, that's stirred really well, and then it's going to be blended when I blend it with the colors. So my base is only going to be a little gold, some green. I'm going to pour that as an in the pot swirl, and then I'm going to add some white to that. Going to be a little full. I think I might actually even use some of the natural soap color. Because I really do only want a little bit of white. And that's going to go in this cup. It's almost like I'm getting an extra color out of that. And the natural soap color will go well with the gold. Actually, now I know why I had some extra color. I wanted to have the black for this. So let me alter this a little bit. I want more white than black. Actually, I want this as the smaller pouring also. I've got a lot on my mind for this one because there's a certain order that I think is going to be important that you'll see when I start to pour. A little bit more activated charcoal. Stir up that color. If I stir it up, I won't have to blend it as long. Still nice and liquid. Do the same with my gold. And I didn't want a white background for this one. I'm going to leave this white alone so that I don't thicken it up too much, but I do think it needs a little bit more titanium dioxide, just a little bit more. And that'll get blended up. Okay, let's give this a blend. Okay, so this, it's okay if it's in this original mixing bowl that had my raw soap batter in there because I don't mind if there's a little bit of that mixed in there. So I'm going to just do an in the pot swirl without stirring. So it's just swirling on its own. Alternating them a little bit. I'm going to keep some of this to dribble on the top, the gold and the green. And let's start pouring already. Still nice and liquid. Get some bubbles out of there. And let's see what I want to do. I want to mix my white with the blender now. A little thicker than I'd like, but this is going to work. Stir that up a little bit. I just want some random designs in this. I poured a little bit from up above and a little bit closer so that some of it would go inside the soap. Then I still have to mix my black. Okay, so here's the order I was telling you about. I want to take a spoon and fuzzy up the lines of the white a little. Dig some of that up. Spin it around. Did I get nothing on my video? Well, what I did was I did an in the pot swirl with green gold, and then I put some white on top of that. And now I'm going to do my drizzles. And I want to block some areas of color, so I'm going to put some dots of color that I'm going to use a spoon to smear in a bit. I haven't checked yet. I'm thinking I didn't get what I wanted on my video. So let's just make some shapes with some of this. Try to make some interesting shapes with this. Each bar doesn't necessarily have to have all the colors. Oh, and I just have a little touch of purple. This is different from the Jackson Pollock soap, mainly because Mondrian had a lot more line work and not as much little dribbles for the most part. Okay, so now I'm going to get my dividers in there. And this is the time that I'm going to have my thin embeds that I made for you. Okay, so what I'm focused on are these big black areas, and that's where I want to have some of these embeds. And I made them because they're very geometric, and I couldn't pour little squares. Some of them I made to have two different colors. So I'm just now working with the design, seeing where these embeds would look the best. And if I'm looking for a place for this, so if there's a little empty area, that's where I'm going to place it. Trying to place them the best I can, but they're going to fall where they want to fall. So there's a degree of randomness in this. Here's an interesting piece. I think I'll put this right on the edge here. And the thing is, I have plenty of time to work because the top's going to remain wet for a while. There's some similarities between those two artists, but big differences as well. This one needs a little bright spot right there. Last year we went to Spain and we walked up a hill to see the Miró museum, and it was closed, so I was pretty sad. I noticed that many of Miró's work that have geometric shapes within them have the squares lined up with the edges of the painting itself. So I'm trying to do the same thing. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Give that a spray down. Okay, if this didn't video. I'll be a little upset, but we'll see how it went, and I just may make this again in the not too distant future. I'd like to do some other inspired works by some other artists, but I was thinking about this one for a long time, so definitely want to share it with you. Alright, so I'll show you the unmolding of this. Okay, let's unmold this Miró soap. Okay. This one fell out right away. You know, every time you make these, you learn something, and I think it came across as a Miró soap, but I think the next time I make these, they can become even more Miró. And I didn't take into account, for example, that the parts of the activated charcoal parts would fade a bit, but I'm glad that I had the mica drizzle with activated charcoal because that maintained the darkness. But I'm happy with how the embeds turned out. It would have been really hard to make a perfect circle with two different colors on it, and those appear in a lot of Miró's work. Unmolding and cleaning up the soaps are one of my favorite parts about soap making, because again, you don't have any time restrictions about unmolding as you do when the soap is setting up and you're trying to get it in the right place before it sets up. And you can just be just as surprised as everyone else is with how the soaps turn out. Not as much with slab mold soaps like this, but of course for loaf mold soaps you can't see the design until you cut into them. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I went to the soap conference in Atlanta, Georgia. There was a costume night, and Zahida came down as Frida Kahlo, and we're going to do a collaborative effort and show that on YouTube with the making of a Frida Kahlo soap. So stay tuned for that. I don't know when we'll do that, but we do really want to do that. So let me be right back. I'll take some photos of this before I trim them, and be right back. Hi everyone, it's Clyde from somewhere. Hi everyone, it's Clyde from Vibrant. So I'm going to go into a little bit more of the color palette for this right after I shut up here.